More like the Clowngress. Am I right? Hey everyone, it's Michael Swaim at Frame Rate, I guess, the podcast where we rate frames. I got my cohort here.
I'm Abe Epperson. I'm the other guy. We rate frames.
That's right, and we're at it, which is I'm just going to pick a big bone with that. Is that the right phrase? I'm going to pick a big bone.
I got a bone to pick with
I got a bone to pick with this movie because it's called Robin Wright at the Congress, and I don't understand why. Here to explain is our very special guest. Please introduce yourself, special guest.
Robert Brockway.
Wow.
And I'm not explaining shit.
You kind of made up for the fact that you don't have your soundboard just right there. Yeah.
Right. We're going drive time on our own podcast, so I'm trying to really bring that drive time energy with me wherever I go, like in my personal life, in podcast life.
Angry, unfocused, ephemeral energy. Yeah.
Small gong with me at all times.
To our serious discussion of this art film.
Guys, I am not going to do great at the art part. Oh, well, there's so much art.
We'll see. I just found out this second that Usher syndrome is a real thing. And I assumed it was some kind of reference to Usher, and I was waiting for Aaron to just start busting out smooth R&B. Lo and behold, no. Not so much. We should thank the person who graciously brought us all here today.
Thomas B.
Tommy B.
Yeah, I mean... have you ever seen him in the same room? I haven't.
Thomas B. and God, no.
We opened up the Pick the Flick on our Patreon recently. If you haven't heard that news, that means you can pledge to decide the movie we cover. That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. That's what Tommy B did. And, so here we are. And thank you, Tommy B.
Yeah, thanks, Tommy B. That thing that our sister network, Gamefully Unemployed, does every Thursday. We do it every 2 months. Then we stop doing it for about a year. Now we're going to do it when we feel like it. So thank you, Tommy B, for introducing us to Robin Wright at the Congress, a film by Ari Folman. We've covered, of course, Ari's previous film, Waltz with Bashir, which was also a Pick the Flick, I believe.
Yes.
Was that from Tommy B?
I can't recall.
People love him.
Either. Yeah, don't hold us to it. And we usually start things off by asking, Robert, first of all, thank you for being here. And second of all, how'd this hit you? How'd Robin Wright at the Congress hit you, huh? We picked you because you write highly imaginative, artistically ambitious, experimental sci-fi, which this technically is.
Yeah, it hit me in a couple of places with different severities. Have
you seen Waltz with Bashir, by the way?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not. Coming into this cold... I enjoyed parts of it quite a bit. I love the animation. I do feel like just a little bit that it maybe built like a lovely home inside of its own asshole and then just lived there.
Yeah, like Jonah and the Ass, the classic
just
tale.
Started a new life up in its own asshole. A little bit. It wasn't that I got nothing out of it, but it was definitely... the kind of art that somebody makes where they're trying to communicate something about themselves and they don't really care if you get it.
Yeah, like a big art. Let's
big
get
art.
Big art.
Big capital A, capital R, capital T.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Fucking art you. Art you right in the face.
No, I think you might be onto something there. What we typically do to really start it off is if you can kind of summarize the film.
Oh, fuck you.
As well, you can be brief about it. Well, you don't have to be detailed, but we're talking about how high art this thing is. Let's let the people know kind of what this movie's about.
Yeah, there's a fair chance the listeners have not seen this one, if I were to guess.
Fair. Yeah.
I've heard Frame Rate before. I knew this was coming, and I still didn't think to prepare for it. Because this is probably the least what is this movie about.
All right, so either you can, we'll give you the option, synopsis or 8 separate soundboard effects in a row.
Easy. Okay. That is
Yeah, he's just gonna do like
that is
air
muscle
horn,
muscle
air
man
horn,
farting, like a muscle fart, a really strong muscle fart.
Not
Two
saying
gongs.
them. You got to do them. Come on.
I didn't bring my soundboard.
See, this is interesting because this is talking about the artistic difference between a thing that indicates a thing and the thing itself.
I disagree.
Much like the film is.
All right.
Give us the breakdown of Robin Wright at the Congress as best you can, understanding that is literally an impossible task because it's kind of an abstraction at some points of the film.
And this is, I'm assuming, less than a 4-hour podcast, which is what I would need. Okay. So Robin Wright stars Robin Wright as Robin Wright, but I guess a really shitty version of her, which was a weird decision, like right from the jump. Everybody hates Robin Wright is not something I was on board with. You know what I mean? Like if this was Sean Penn, I would get this movie, but
Princess Bride. Everyone's like, fuck that lady.
Robin Wright fucking sucks, and everybody knows it is not like what I came into this thinking. But that's where she is. She's an aging actress. This was 2013, 2014.
2013, yeah.
Yeah, so she was considered past her prime by Hollywood standards, at least, and she is called in to the studio one more time, and the studio is doing I forget the exact term, they are sampling. That's what it was.
Yeah.
They are
Scanning.
sampling actors rather than having them come in and be in movies. They are sort of motion capturing and like just sort of spirit capturing, voice capturing to make virtual actors. And that's what all of their contracts are going to be now. They don't want to deal with people anymore. People are not reliable. They suck. They don't want to deal with it anymore. So they bring Robin Wright in to have her sign away the rights to her, not just her likeness,
Yeah.
but like to herself as an actor. They say, they go out of the way to say, like, you can't act ever again in anything, not even like a school play or whatever. Like your persona as an actor becomes ours after this, and you will live on as this different person. And she is not on board with it until they say, like, well, we're going to make you like 34 forever. And she's like, oh, fuck yeah. And then she signs the rights to
Is it the same meeting
herself
where
away.
they call her a stupid whore, by the way? Pardon, right?
You're going to have to be more specific because they
Yeah.
do call Robin Wright a stupid whore like 800 times in this
Quite
movie.
a bit. Yeah.
And
So
again, not something I came into this with, like, Robin Wright, the stupid whore.
Another classic drive time soundboard effect, by the way.
Gonna add that one on there. So she has been living somewhat peacefully and strangely outside of an airport for some reason with her kids. Her son has a disability that we just found out was real called Usher syndrome, where he's sort of being locked inside his own head. And she wants to take the time to like get to know them and get to spend time with them away from acting. So she takes them up on this, and they sample her. And it's kind of like, it's like what Disney is doing to Mark Hamill, but in like a sci-fi utopia where they ask for permission and give you money.
Yeah,
It's kind of
came out in
metaversey.
2013. I feel like if it came out 5 years later, they would have just said deepfake.
Yeah.
It's a deepfake, but they
They
didn't
would
have
have
that
just
terminology.
The
yet.
actor wouldn't have been in this movie. It wouldn't have been her coming in to
They
have a
wouldn't have needed
discussion
her.
over this.
Yeah.
You would have just seen the virtual one.
Mhm.
But anyway, she agrees to it, and then we time jump like 20 years later, and she is rolling through the desert and coming to this sort of hidden resort, theme park, studio, never really clear exactly what it is. But she
Place
has
they
to...
now make for this, I think. for
Yeah,
this
it's
action.
I don't know if it's where they make movies or if it's what they make instead of movies. It's Miramount, which is their studio analog. It's their lot, more or less.
Mhm.
And to enter it, she has to take some brain drugs, some movie drugs, I guess, that make her animated, and they make everybody else animated. And this becomes an animated movie after, I want to say, like 40 minutes. Like 40 minutes in, it just becomes an animated movie.
Mhm.
And remains an animated movie almost all the way till the end.
Yeah.
And then it goes up and it builds a nice house inside of its own asshole, and it lives there, and it starts taking care of plants, and it learns to knit. It just, so she goes to this resort And the studio heads are there, and there are the same studio head is there. Is Jeff Green, is that a real person?
Yeah, Jeff Green, played by Danny Houston.
Okay. But it's not. See, they did very thin analogs with a few other people, and I was wondering if that was a real guy because.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I would imagine he's at least
sued.
based on someone, but yeah, I don't know of a famous like asshole executive named Jeff Green or anything.
Okay. Yeah.
Well,
I mean, there is one, but I don't think he's the one they're talking about.
I mean, every Jeff Green is kind of an asshole. Like, if you want to be real about it.
Yeah. Coming down hard on Jeff's. That's rough, man.
I'm sorry, Jeff Green. You know what you did, though. And you know. So she's here not to have fun, but to sign a new kind of contract. And they say this whole thing we're doing with like everybody becomes cartoons and you have like a virtual persona. This is all over now. And the next thing is like you become sort of a drug, definitely a substance is the term they use. And all the people are just going to take you. They're going to fucking get crunk on Robin Wright from now on. That's what the kids say. They're going to get righted. And
they're going to freebase Princess Bride.
Get right?
They're going to write up because that's what everybody wants to do in the future.
Get right up.
Be or become or eat. They specifically say eat Robin Wright several times.
You'll be a milkshake or you'll be a milkshake. People can inhale you. People can drink you. Yeah, I mean, I interpret it that a certain way, but I think it's open to multiple interpretations for sure.
Right.
Let's go with milkshake on that one. Mm-hmm. So they want to make Robin Wright into a milkshake, and she does not like this, but it's kind of not up to her. Some sort of rebels invade this studio, and there's like a guerrilla warfare battle in this animated land as she becomes trapped in like the hallucination of this sort of animated substance self. And there's a big plot with well, not necessarily a plot, there's no plot from now on. But there's a big scene where the rebels are tearing down this sort of old system, and she mentally travels to cartoon utopia where it's this shifting timescape where everybody's inside their own heads and they're sort of each other's hallucinations.
She gets a wake-up pill, essentially a red pill from Jon Hamm.
Yeah, well, we haven't even gotten to Jon Hamm.
By the way, speaking of building a home in your own butthole, he is
Jon Hamm.
He's an animator named Trueliner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I mean. So then the animator writes himself in, I guess. And he has been the animator of Robin Wright, of the head of the Robin Wright department for the last 20 years after she signed her rights away. And he fell in love with the puppet he made of her. And so he went to find the real her, and he saves her from all of this. And they disappear into this new world where every substances are sort of, people are substances and everything's sort of interstitial. And she wants to finally leave it to go find her son, because you can't find anybody in here because everybody's different. Everybody becomes whatever.
You skipped her getting cryogenically frozen, but it kind of doesn't matter, but go ahead.
Yeah, I don't even remember when that... Like, she got cryogenically frozen, and then this is later, but it's also still inside of her head. Yeah. So, I don't know. I'm skipping a lot.
Well, it's another 20 years later.
Sure.
Technically.
Yeah.
It is, yeah, right.
We lose time. Yeah.
It's another 20 years later, but she's not really anywhere. She's still in this, like... At some point, they say time doesn't matter, and it's all subjective here. So I'm going to say that, too, about my mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Time is subjective. Like, you just don't get it, is what happened.
This is a Roger Rabbit spinoff, so make sure you fold that in as well.
It is kind of a fucked up Toontown thing. Yeah, a little Cool World. And she wants to leave. Jon Hamm gives her this pill that he's been keeping. It's like the only thing he asked for is his severance pay, which will get him out of this substance hallucination world. And he gives it to her, and she takes it and wakes up out of the Matrix, out of the cartoon sex Matrix, and in just, I don't know, like 70s movie New York. Like just a kind of a
trashed...
it's
where they all have been.
Escape from New York City kind of world.
Yeah, it's very Escape from New York. It's very
world.
Like what the 70s thought New York was going to be in 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
So she wakes up there and everybody else is, hallucinating except for, I guess, an upper class of people, just sort of the caretakers of the world, and they're all up in blimps. So she goes
I can hear
to
you
Blimp
rolling
World.
your eyes right now.
Yeah, you can. I'm sorry, my levels are off, and my eyeballs are usually not that loud, but absolutely, yes. So she goes up into Blimp World, where the upper class lives, to try to find her son. She finds this old doctor, and he tells her you can never see him again because everybody is inside of their own minds, and we're all different people there. But he can't send her back, and she's not even gonna go back to Jon Hamm because now she's a different person, and so they won't link up. And she goes back. She takes the pill. She goes back to Delusion World. Only she decides she wants to be her son, so that she can find her son, and so she lives her life as her son, and then finds her son in a field flying planes and says hello to him as her own son. And I think that's
Kind
the
of,
movie.
Yeah, it kind of it depends on your interpretation, but it's kind of Dark City ending. It's like the cleverness is he says, well, there's no way you could find your son, but here, take this drug that will let you be anything you want. And she says, well, I want to be my son because then I'll know everything he did and where he is. And that allows her to somehow find him, even though he's unfindable.
You fucking tricked me, Robin Wright. This is why everyone says you're a piece of shit.
That's right.
Yeah.
Budget, 8 million euros. Box office, $356,000. Well done, Robert. Thank you so much. I got to say, guys, I love this movie.
I also like this movie. I think it's flawed, but it's like I'm into it. I think it's
super into it.
Yeah. I think it's one of the more like conceptually one of the cooler sci-fis we've gotten in the last a few decades.
Yeah.
Like,
wow, that far. I was going to go as far as I didn't hate it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In the end, I was
the end. That was the end of the thought.
I didn't hate it as much as I have in other movies over the last
Mm-hmm.
several decades. This one I hated less. I don't know. It was interesting, but it stopped. It's the kind of art where they stop giving a shit about the audience, which is both the best kind of art and the worst kind, depending on like how you jive with the creator. Like it's either unlocking things in you forever, or you're like,
sometimes
okay.
Yeah. No, I totally know what you mean. I just think that the concepts of play are very cool, so you have a lot to think about. But like, if you basically should just go watch The Matrix, is my opinion. Because
you should put on The Matrix.
It's the same thing.
And Being John Malkovich at the same time.
But it's like, but it's like,
you play Cuphead.
because it's not designed to be a Western, like a Western hero mythos. Like there's no narrative structure. So that's why, especially in Act 2 and 3, you really feel like things are like, I don't know, this just feels like an experimental movie, because it is, and there's things I think that he's doing, the director is doing, to tell you that all the way through. Like, don't expect this to be that. But yeah. Mike, you want to talk?
Well, I wasn't as on board. I mean, I was still on board in the sense of a traditional sci-fi thing where I'm like, oh, okay, I see. It's a dark comical satire about how we build up, or celebrity culture is essentially the reaping. Like we build up Britney Spears or Robin Wright or whoever, and then we hollow out their realness and make them an avatar for our own uses, and then we don't care what happens to the real physical meat-based person that they are, and we just discard them and move on. And that is sort of the lot of the actor celebrity in our culture. And I do think that I immediately have a chip on my shoulder when a movie is about movies being about movies all the way down, nested fractorally.
Yeah.
But once the animation kicked in, it certainly helps that I do have a soft spot for like Betty Boop Fleischer era animation.
Cuphead,
it really looks like Cuphead or Yellow Submarine or some shit. But and coming from, I think, having seen Waltz with Bashir, so like it didn't jar me that I knew the bulk of it would be animated going in. I love trippiness, and I think that the ideas at play do bear out, and it basically the core concept to me, or the thing that resonated with me the most, is something that I've often asked myself as a wannabe storyteller, filmmaker type, is, we often talk about automation taking away things like checking out at the grocery store or coal mining or whatever. But we're now getting to the point where technology can take over creative endeavors and do a fine job. And if that continues, is there a future time that's not that far off when instead of going to a movie, you can just take a pill that gives you the impression that you went to a really good movie? And is that bad? Isn't that the same? Didn't you get the same result? Is there a problem with living in your own filth in a pod, being fed art, or even not real art, but being fed the feeling that you just saw art?
Yeah, at one point they talk about that, like, this is all, like, Jeff Green says, like, this is all actually kind of reminiscent of what we saw at the beginning of the movie, where he's like, movies are dead. It's this now. It's the metaverse. And then when we're in the metaverse later, he's like, okay, the metaverse is dead. The next thing is it's just streamlined, like, we just straight up connect into your brain and just release like the fundamental hormones and
the chemicals present in the human brain that simulate Robin Wright.
I think the hardest to buy facet of the premise is that Robin Wright would be the thing around which we keep perpetuating the technology.
But she kind of, I mean, there always has to be a logo, right? There always has to be something. But yeah, it's funny that it's like, oh yeah, Princess Bride. I guess this, they take too much time to discuss stuff that not all of us know about Robin Wright. They're like, Robin Wright, Princess Bride. And I'm like, yeah, we all know that. And it's like, Texas. I was like, oh, I didn't know she was from Texas. She
and
had
all of these
story.
other roles.
Everyone fell in love with her. All these, and it was just like, oh, okay. I guess that everyone's like really tapped into the Robin Wright like lore
and hates her. Like both steps of that. The first step that everything about her, the world is obsessed with her, and the second step is, and you fucking hate it. God, you hate her.
Right.
You hate her, but you want to be her. Yeah.
They needed to give her a kind of justification to take the scanning, like do the thing, because otherwise, like they had to make it seem like, oh, she made bad decisions, but they didn't really say what they were. They kind of did. They were like, you did drugs and you were very difficult on set, but like no one wants to work with her anymore because she's so difficult. I guess that's it. And I just don't feel like that justifies the hate. Yeah, lousy
again,
choices.
Were we doing subtle, not so subtle digs at Sean Penn for this? Because that's everything they describe is Sean Penn.
Yeah, I wonder about that. And there's a lot of conversation about like you're doing it for your family as well. Yeah, that's something that crossed my brain.
Yeah, and they also reference, who do they say? Keanu Reeves has been sampled. We see Tom Cruise in the animated world, although he's never called out by name. I think in the credits he's just like Top Gun.
To say his name.
Yeah.
Well, what's haunting about that scene is you're not sure if that is actually Tom Cruise. Like it could or couldn't. Yeah. I think you're assuming that they are because he's like, we're the only ones like left.
I was assuming it was because he is sitting outside Jeff Green's office. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like kind of like that Beetlejuice, like in that section where they're all like queuing to hell. Like no one knows each other's situation, and the idea that like no one has identity anymore. All identities are fluid.
Yeah.
And it can be shared instantly with anyone is like really fucks your movie up to like a primer level, in my opinion.
That's another interesting aspect to meditate on. Is we are moving towards a place where identity is more and more fluid. What if you take that to the nth degree and identity dissolves and you're like,
right.
But yeah, it's weird how everyone's still obsessed with the classics. Like we see many people becoming Clint Eastwood, and I hope he's not still that relevant 40 years from now.
Within 50 years, all of us will be Robin Wright or Clint Eastwood.
That's right. We'll just break into two like factions. Well, Frida Kahlo's in the mix.
It could have been not Tom
Timothy
Cruise at all there
Chalamet.
in
What are you
that
talking
scene,
about?
because we are shown explicitly right before that how everybody else changes shape, and you can be whatever you want. You can license Tom Cruise shape. It could be anybody there. Like obviously he's piloting the Tom Cruise cartoon meat vessel, but it could have been Paul Giamatti. just with,
Could have been Paul Giamatti.
That's true. We didn't mention
self-confidence issues.
Giamatti is the doctor who lives in a dirigible at the end, and there's also Harvey Keitel. So
It's
if
a
you're
good cast, man.
Keitel fan,
Nothing
yeah,
else.
very good
There's
cast.
when we get into the animated world and she's at Abrahama or whatever, the
Cartoon City,
Xanadu.
Toontown.
Yeah. There's way too many like wispy haired, tall, redhead men that it's just like, why is everyone? Was that Conan O'Brien? Was there like
Everyone
19
wants to
Conan
be
O'Briens?
Conan, yeah.
I kept thinking I spotted
thought that
it.
was
It's
weird.
true.
Yeah, because we just see people in the distance mostly, and it's not like they have to like do their likeness.
And a
which
lot
is
of
kinda
them
clever.
are art references, like the guy with the apple for a head, or
Or-
Horus from Egyptian folklore,
Yeah.
or various forms of the Buddha appear.
Other celebrities. I saw Cyndi Lauper in there. I saw Conan O'Brien 18 times, as we've mentioned.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody wants to be a 7-foot-tall, pale, pasty Irish guy with a huge head.
I
give me
kinda wanna
ultimate freedom.
I kind of want to talk about, just because Robert's coming in, which I think is a super valid opinion, of like why it doesn't work for you. Like it's up its own ass, but I want to kind of like see if we can diagnose a little bit of that and like why it kind of worked for us, or like for some reason we were blind to that kind of thing where you're like, it's fine.
I want to point out one thing that
okay.
I don't think that Brockway probably doesn't know, and see if that helps at all. Is that it's semi-based on a novel, Polish sci-fi novel, The Futurological Congress, that has, so like in that middle part, so The Futurological Congress, the book, it's a highly experimental book with the kind of meanders and doesn't have like a super solid through line, but the key sci-fi concept of it is that the character exists in this hallucinatory state, and there's a rebel, there's guerrilla warfare going on, and he falls into the sewers beneath the Congress, just like Robin Wright does. And he keeps thinking various things happen where he escapes, or he gets frozen and he wakes up, or he becomes the president, or he blah, blah, blah. But every single time he just wakes up in the sewers again and goes, oh no, I'm just still tripping. It was just another hallucination. I'm still in the sewers.
I can't tell what's real.
I cannot escape from the sewer, and I never will. I just keep waking up back where I started. Everything is a hallucination. Yeah, it's a good bit. And so I just think it really unlocked the movie to me to realize that the whole middle chunk of the movie when she's in the sewers is that. Because we do get multiple, which by necessity is sloppy storytelling, only in the traditional sense of like tight, this, therefore this, therefore this, because you're having things happen that quote unquote don't matter because we immediately take them back and they didn't happen. So in simple terms, what really happened is Robin Wright allowed herself to be sampled. 20 years later, Robin Wright goes to the Congress and gives her impassioned speech that's basically like an Oscar speech against climate change, but it's against all this shit that's happening, sampling of actors and whatnot. Falls into the sewers, gets an OD of the hallucinogen. Then a bunch of that shit is just hallucinations. The real thing that happens is her getting frozen, waking up 20 years later. The world is now a dystopia where everyone's an unhoused refugee from a Carpenter movie, but they're all on drugs that make you be whatever you want.
I love also the sci-fi concept where they're just like, oh, what is this society? Well, it's a bunch of people in like tenement living like standards on the ground level, and all the elite are in these blimps that just poo gas like hallucinogenic drugs onto the populace constantly, just gassing the entire populace so that they just stay absolutely mute. And that's like a very like Huxleyan and Orwellian, like it's both, that's kind of cool to me.
And you got to take your son's kite to get there.
Okay. The thing that, so let's, tell us what didn't work for you, because the kite image didn't work for me. That's one of the few things where I was like, who cares about the kite? What does the kite mean? I didn't get anything out of the kite.
See, there was so much of that where it was just trying to portray something as maybe more significant to this specific story than it was, like the kite and the whole airplane flying thing. It's never tied into anything. She said maybe this is, when you say this was a book, I immediately thought oh, this would be a way better book, right? Because then that's much more about you could disappear into a headspace, into perception, and into like your sensation and where your thoughts lead, and like the worlds bleeding together and in and out of each other. I think that works better in a book than it does in a movie, even if it's gorgeously animated, which this one was. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, you would say that. I mean, you write trippy sci-fi books.
I think the kite represents something specific, honestly, but it's just my read of it, because the kite is almost never not represented without the danger of it getting, which is a weird thing because I don't think that really happens. Do kites get in the way of planes and they crash? Is that a thing? Because the airport originally, where the place where they live in the real world before they go, like we jump ahead in time, Robin and her family live near an airport, and the airport, like the kid keeps going out to the airport and flying the kite, and like the security guard keeps saying, like, you can't live here, like you can't do this, like this is like one more time and we're gonna call the police and you're gonna, like, they're basically gonna probably evict you.
I mean, he just trails off to, I got the implication, one more time with this goddamn kite and I will let my dog rip your son's face off.
Yeah. And then later it happens, and I think what it is it comes down to choice, right? There several times in the movie, I think it's a little messy, but it's actually like there's one really good thing, which is that, like, this movie doesn't say that choice is like an illusion or that choice will set you free or anything like that. That's typical sci-fi, trad. But it's more about like the pain that comes from choosing comfort, right? How, like, I guess technologies that comfort us, or chasing individual success or legacy or ego, all distract you from spending time with people that matter, right? It keeps you from like the real, and sometimes the real is painful, and sometimes your son has Usher syndrome, and sometimes they fly kites and make mistakes and do damage to the world, but your choice is the thing that allows you to do that, and it's sometimes a good thing to, like, that's what the movie's saying, is that yes, by choosing comfort over like choice or freedom or identity, it is very comfortable. That's what the society is now. But you lose kids flying kites, making mistakes, which is what she really should have done for her son. It's what really identifies her son, who her son is, and all these things being taken away from her. So I think that that's what the kite represents, is kind of like just the choice to do something, even if it has negative repercussions.
Incidentally, she's super not concerned about whatever became of her daughter, or where her daughter is, or what her daughter's up to.
Her daughter just like fucks off and becomes a rebel.
Yeah.
I've got a take on the kite, and it's
okay. Yeah,
it's maybe going to be a little controversial, so I hope you'll bear with me on this.
I mean, we'll find out.
I think the kite was supposed to fuck the plane, right?
To create.
Kite planes.
Plight?
Man.
Yeah.
Wait, no, kite planes, because he's obsessed with the gliders and everything. That's what it is, right? You're with me.
He is obsessed with flight, and they make a big thing out of the fact that her name is Wright, and he's a Wright. They call him the third Wright brother.
Oh, right.
So this is like so many little things that you're like, and isn't that a thing? Like, just slipped in there that wore me down.
Yeah.
But like I'm a little serious about the kites and the planes, because that was said over and over again. And when he's trying to explain why he keeps flying his kite in front of this plane, and the sister's like, oh, did it come from Fort Lauderdale? Did it come from here? And he's like, none of that matters. And he tries to explain to her, and it's like, it was the red and the sky and then the plane, and like it's kind of an aesthetics thing, I guess, for him. And it's sort of him being shut down from the world, and that he is unable to communicate, why he likes this or what this means to him or what his experience is. And then the plane, I think, was supposed to be something about the external world, about the sort of utilitarian aspect.
Right.
And so it was. And then when they cut to the animation, like, they go and they fly a kite in, hallucination world, and then a bird plane comes flying in, and it kind of like coos and flips around the kite like they're gonna fuck, and then they do touch and it explodes and it crashes.
Right.
Yeah.
Then the kite blows up the. Yeah.
And then they bone on top of the explosion, which was awesome. I'm here for that.
I think that's Right? I think you're right. I think that that's the there's a little of that, because I think that there's a moment where Ari Folman wants to like tell you, oh, there's an indecipherable moment where it's like when you choose that comfort or like lose that identity or whatever, or lose that choice. Those two things seem like they're in simpatico. There's a symmetry to it, but
it was his like
in the reality you can abuse it.
Yeah, it was his sort of views on the world and trying to communicate what was in himself with what the world needs from him coming from outside, and then they meet and they finally do meet and it's disastrous because it's not always going to be a good thing. Like you want that connection, but it's not always going to be good or healthy or healing. And that's why kites can't fuck planes.
And yeah, what is what is the reality? The dick is not aerodynamic enough. The kite can't get up there. And yet reality is your son is going deaf and blind. You know, like reality is unpalatable or whatever. You age and die and you don't get to be exactly who you want to be. You don't get to do exactly what you want to do. And I guess I just find it endlessly fascinating and ironic. It's almost how like Eminem, when he was coming up, had pulled this trick on me where I'm like, you don't get it. He raps about how he's a piece of shit. Like he is his own.
So he's not the.
He's up his own ass about understanding. At least he understands he's a worthless piece of shit. And that really resonated with me as a shithead teenager. And I think the same trick works here where I find it powerful and fascinating to think about the idea that here's a piece of art that is highly artified, if you can call it that. Like, you know, it's animated, it's abstract, it's really like swinging for the fences and trying to be capital A art, as Robert said. And the message seems to be, no, but for better or worse, there's some value to reality that is intrinsic to reality, that it is preferable. The truth, even if it's unpalatable, is preferable to fantasy. And yet this is a cartoon that is a film, and what it like film itself is the convenient distortion of reality to do whatever we want with it. Like that's what stories are, right? And in a way, that's what our identities are a composite of our memories, the stories we tell ourselves, and stories are wildly inaccurate. Like our identity is comprised of memories that are stories that we have cobbled together and edited and adjusted and retold over and over and over and varnished the edges off of. So I guess I'm saying I would be one of the people huffing these ampules as fast as I could. What is the inherent value of reality? Who gives a shit?
Oh yeah,
that's the question.
100%. I would huff the art world.
You'd be in the cartoon.
I'll huff art right now.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like a movie for what's his name in the Matrix? Cypher.
Oh, Joey
like the
Pants.
Steak guy.
Yeah,
Joey Pants. He eats the steak and he's just like, it's a movie for that guy. It's like, yeah, let's follow that character. And then show
just
how terrible it is. But also at the end, beautiful. You got to see your son and you guys get to live forever, I think.
I think they might live forever. Yeah. It's not really gotten into.
Both as the son.
I mean,
two of him forever.
If Paul Giamatti,
that's kind of each other.
If Paul Giamatti still looks that good in 40 years, I will fuck my hat and eat my kite.
Yes. All of that.
Yeah, I'll fuck a plane. I'll fuck a plane into the ground and then roll around in the explosion.
I'll become a kite and fuck a plane.
Impressive also that it was really easy to find Dr. Barker. That bothered me.
That's what I think
doesn't
a little
matter.
Sign outside the blimp
really fails at is it's not good at getting you on its side. So all that, like, I do feel that there is a lot of up its own ass in terms of the imagery, but I think that the fundamental, like the house itself, the foundation is actually very sound.
Yeah.
But the problem is that because they didn't choose like something like the Matrix where it's just like, let's follow Neo, who's like a special boy and he like, you know, he challenges the system and he breaks out. Yeah, and it's like perfect. We love it. That we're simple dummies who love simple movies, and you can do some wonderful things with that because it's not in that palette. I think I reacted to this movie in a way is where I was like, it's hard getting me on its side. It also does things like Mike just mentioned, where it's like constantly just making it easy for her. She just has to walk to the next spot. It's kind of like an Alice in Wonderland, really, where it's like there's no agency really in the movie. She just has a want and lightly goes through things, doesn't like think of plans, just kind of moves ahead and gets there. It's also very like Stalker, like it's a lot of these types of things which are never really like, they're not like Blockbuster, right? They're never going to get us with story. So because of that, we get a lot of these things firing off, like, oh, there's a lot of cast here. I'm expecting this movie to be better constantly, but these scenes continue to just be ambling nonsense.
Unless you're just straight up a fan of animation, which I can't stress enough that the animation is just baller. Like, it's just fun to watch.
Oh, yeah.
It's very well done.
Yeah.
Get high on art and watch this art.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's constantly contradicting itself. That's what I think I was getting at with the Eminem thing. Is every other track he'd say things where you're like, man, this guy's a homophobic piece of shit. And then every other track he's like, I'm a homophobic piece of shit. I hate that about myself. And you're like, this is he's a nuanced
How real
rap
of you.
persona. Yeah.
I forgive you.
Like this movie, I forgive you, Eminem. I forgive you. This
That's all
movie
I wanted. That's all I ever wanted.
Raises the idea that at the end, like this is just occurring to me now, but she literally took a drug that lets you see whatever you want, and then the triumphant ending is, oh, she did find her son after all. Did she?
Well, that's what she
Or is
wants.
she just seeing what she wants? Yeah.
Exactly.
That's cool to me.
In fact, there's a line about that earlier in the movie. Is it dark in here or is it just in my mind? And the robot says, everything is in our mind. If you see the dark, you chose the dark.
Oh, fuck you, robot. Just turn the goddamn lights on.
Just turn on the... Yeah, I know. But it's really about the agency of like the desperate, right? Like the post-apocalypse is like a choice, is what they're trying to say.
That's the only note I wrote down for this podcast, by the way, was that line. The other half of it is she goes, it looks dark, does that make sense, or is it just in my mind? And he says, everything makes sense and everything is in our mind.
Right.
Just like this movie.
It's overwritten to just drop that on us. I agree with that, but that is a cool thought.
It is a cool thought.
Yeah.
The other one that I wrote down was the symmetry contradicts art one.
Mm-hmm.
Use the TV. They're doing he's talking about the weatherman is talking about unfinished animated rainbows that they have.
Oh, they're like, we apologize. The rainbows weren't good today. Yeah.
And then they like kind of double down, kind of like in a They Live or a 1984 kind of way. They're like, and like, remember, symmetry contradicts art. Mm-hmm. And I actually don't agree with that, but that's neither here nor there. It's just that it's trying to. The structure of the society is one that it is like trying to defeat art, but also the methodology in which people actually interact is art. So it's like very contradictory or paradoxical in its like setup already, which I think
I liked the main through line of the movie. Like if you had given some sort of stripped down version of this to me with a little bit more focus, it probably would have been something more like, I don't know, a Scanner Darkly or something. It would have been, it just needed less. Right. And it was constantly, it had like one thought and then it was like, here's my thought on sex. Going. On like, isn't it weird that we have sex? And now let's do something else. And it's just, it danced around like a little too many things when it had a lot to focus on in the main thoroughfare. Those were a lot of very hard questions that I felt you could have spent more time with rather than skipping around.
Yeah. And man, you know what I really would have wanted to see is would have wanted to see like the other people and their like what's going on in like pick a random person and do a random like montage, or just do spend a moment.
A day in the life of a modern citizen.
Day in the life of literally one of the other people who isn't Robin Wright, and you get a perspective of like the cost a lot more, because she's kind of sheltered because of like her privilege. So you kind of see everything from outside. So you don't really feel like, oh, the soul of humanity is being torn apart from itself. You don't really feel the stakes in the movie.
Yeah, you feel like Robin Wright may not like this. She looks she looks a little confused. I also like, if this is going to be maybe really petty, but something about the length of the scenes bothered me. It's it feels indulgent sometimes and that it would have a long scene, but really it's not very long. It's certainly not as long as they needed. We were trying to jam maybe too much into too small of a package, because every time they stopped and took their time with something, it was amazing. It was so good. The speech with Harvey Keitel when he's
that speech.
Yeah, when he's getting her scanned.
Yeah.
And she needs to come to this emotional place, and instead of like, you have the scanner there saying, give me sadness, give me happiness, give me happiness that turns into sadness. And she's just kind of, it's not really working for her and she doesn't want to do it. And Harvey Keitel takes over and he starts telling her like his story of his life and how he sees things, how it came there.
That time he abused some kids.
That time he made $1.50 off some freaks.
And that's what I get from you.
When he giggled. And then they got me for abusing handicapped kids. He gives this really messed up speech, but the messed up speech, the entire like point was he was really just either maybe being honest and it happened to fit, or maybe he's just a really good liar and is making up this story that happens to take her through every emotion they need to see for her. And it's just kind of a close-up on Harvey Keitel talking to her with like reaction shots of her quietly smiling or whatever in this scene below. It's a very long scene, a very long story, a really fucked up story about how he abused handicapped kids.
And it obviously resonates with celebrity, right? It's a story of celebrity on a
Robin Wright,
scale.
That piece of shit, loved it. He knew that was the story that fucking Robin Wright needed to hear.
It kind of felt unearned.
I also thought that it made her laugh then cry. I don't know why that story made her cry per se.
That's to me like the exact thing that like I think the director misses in like if you really want to connect to people through your movies, like you can't fudge those little details. The fact that she is like Robin Wright Penn as an emotional being is not a car that you can put in a certain, put it in 1 or 2 or 3 in terms of the drive shaft. It's like we're not really. Also, she's an actor. Like that's the other thing is like the way that the guy approached it. We're like, all right, give me sadness, give me happiness. Is kind of that's how it works. Kind of. I mean, usually there's a little bit more context, but like ultimately, it's like do the thing. We're trying to get your tears, so show tears. Find us realistic tears. That's her job. She can't even do her job. She needs to, which is weird to me because she's supposed to be.
She needs her manager to like coach her through it. Yeah,
and that messed it up in my mind. And I'm like, come on, man, you're doing too many things at once. And it's not, you just give me kind of like what Robert was saying. Give me an isolated moment where I can really focus on what the stakes are, what the conflict is.
See, what I liked about that specifically, I actually really liked that speech because it wasn't like the story was connecting to her. And you're right, maybe that parts of that were unearned. But the story was all leading up to his revelation at the end is like, and that's what I'm doing to you. You're the little freak I've found. And like, the reason like you being such a fucking problem and such a mess is why you need me. And like, that's where I come in. And like you are sort of doing this to yourself and I am like this parasitic entity. And then that, I don't know. I loved that moment. I loved that he came to that moment of like, this is what I need as a manager is I need for you to be a wreck. Cause the bigger a wreck you are, the more you need me.
I thought you were going to call out the speech from the Miramount president, which is my favorite moment in the film is the dudes in their tighty whities doing the taika drums and the guy in the judge's robe talking about how we're all gonna drink the milkshake and we're all gonna live in the brave new world, getting like sniped from the rafters. I love that scene.
Yeah, it gets assassinated. That scene is pretty. Like that one really engages us into like, all right, it's 20 years later and society is fucked.
And when the movie's being clear, it's very clear. You're like, oh, okay, this is a dystopia. I see. Okay, right. Got it.
But because it wants to kind of play in the nebulous space of like, is this real or not? And it does the experimental kind of maneuvers to, push that. It also kind of creates this feeling of nothing matters. And that's also a problem with the film, in my opinion.
Well, and a limitation.
Like you just don't feel the stakes.
Not even a limitation, but a unique aspect of the medium, right? Ari Folman got this movie made by relying on something he's really skilled at and has experience with, which is animation. The metaverse will not be cell animated, almost certainly.
No.
Be cool
so
if
you,
it was, though.
you sort of have to meet him halfway and
Would look
imagine
awesome.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
this
think-
is the metaverse. I get it. Okay, this is standing in for the metaverse.
You know
I think
how
part-
everybody loves 30s animation,
That's
right?
right.
Yeah. I mean, they do. They're making it. They made a Cuphead TV show, which, by the way, has gotten terrible reviews.
Yeah.
I'll huff it.
Because just base your entire
I'll drink
thing
it.
off of a visual tactic. Yeah. Okay.
I'll snort
Drink the
Jurassic
Cuphead
Park.
milkshake.
Mm-hmm.
I'll drink that milkshake. Yeah, getting back to Keitel's kind of speech, I think that the function of that, or like that, the power of that scene to me, is it right up front tells in the movie, like, exploiting weaknesses or flaws is like the ad hoc viewpoint of progress in society. It's like, what can we get from someone, you know? And that's what they're doing, obviously, but it's also shows a human side to the manipulations and the things. In like 1984, we just kind of say like, those aren't people, that's like Big Brother, right? We say we separate that, we build like a barrier of the humanity of the evil and the evil itself. I like that this movie chooses to say like, look at evil, look literally at evil right now. Isn't it kind of beautiful in a way? And then now you understand how things can like unravel so quickly, because you can be lured in by this comfort, this idea that like, you don't have to even work at your job. We're going to print a version of you that does the job. You just get the money. That sounds awesome, you know?
Yeah, similarly, I really liked the runner maneuver that is along the same lines with the cinematographer, who then is sampling her, and then in the cartoon world is the one lowering her into the cryogenic freezing chamber.
Right.
Like the craftsman who just, I mean, I gotta work.
Still got
always
his
there.
job.
I'll do whatever job you give me as
Right.
the responsibility narrows and becomes less and less interesting and more just busy work.
Right. And you start to feel like he's a form. Like he doesn't even have to be the same guy. He's just the guy who's always there. The gaffer.
Yeah.
The guy who's always drinking coffee and fixing the lights. That's her relationship to those types of people. And so people now are just like chess pieces moving on a board, according to Ari Folman. I think that there's a little bit of this like free will doesn't exist thing that's happening, but he doesn't come out right out and say it.
Do you think we'll get AI generated screenplays someday?
Yeah.
That we
I
then
do.
follow
I think
through
we'll
and execute
experiment
on,
with
like
it.
we film them? You think it'll
I
be
think
an
we'll
experiment?
but I think that art has to change, and computers are not good at being like the antenna of society. They're just good at reflecting it. So we'll like engage in it and be like, this is kind of interesting, and then we'll dismiss it and say,
Or we'll
no,
make
the
a really
premier
weird,
form
fun
is
sitcom
human.
with AI-driven dialogue, and we'll be like, that was a weird,
Right.
fun experiment.
We have
Yeah.
to crack the question, like, what is intelligence, before we can answer a question like that.
Certainly we're going to mess with it and do fun, like that's already happening. I do think you'll see a serious effort to get that through, especially maybe come time the next writer's strike, next big one where we really don't want to pay for you. Let's see what happens. And then maybe
That's
right.
maybe
That's
some
the real-
studio head's dipshit nephew can like go through and tweak all the
Yeah.
times it's like gets into Hitler a little too much.
Interesting
Fucking
that
chaos.
Jeff Green
Fucking
doesn't. Jeff
chaos.
Green never worries about his job. He's always got a job in every reality. Like he's either the guy leading the firing squad, or the guy driving the blimp, or the guy.
Yeah, you
like
always need an asshole.
you always need a middleman to just do
also
nothing
love-
and take the money.
It's really on the nose, but it's really funny to me early on. Jeff Green, like one of the stipulations is like she doesn't want to play Nazis
or
like,
do porn. Yeah.
or do porn. Like she has a whole list, right? And one of them is
Or
Nazis or
sci-fi.
Holocaust victims. Yeah, or sci-fi. Yeah, that's just
It's
up
dumb.
that is up its own ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to be
but-
honest, that was where it started. I was like, okay, fuck you.
Yeah,
All
fuck
right.
you. Yeah, no, that's well deserved. But the idea of not wanting to play Holocaust victims or Nazis, and like you kind of see why, but then Jeff Green's response is like, no, they're great. Those are great things to be. Like those
Yeah.
do
Get
well
you
for
awards.
awards. Yeah, so it's like you literally have a guy saying like, I like Nazis.
And later he is a Nazi. And
He
I
shows
like.
up as a Nazi, and she's a Holocaust victim.
and she's a Holocaust victim. It's pretty on the nose, that's for sure.
It is,
but also,
But it works.
Ari
Like,
Folman.
it translates. It gets the meaning across. I liked when Sarah
Yeah.
says, you could play a Nazi. You have great range, Mom. You could be a Nazi or you could be a Holocaust victim. Just as a foreshadowing of I mean, yeah, when you say it out loud, it sounds so obvious that it becomes dumb, but it's like identity is fluid.
Doesn't it?
You can become anything. You could be on one end of the spectrum or the far other end.
Right. Yeah.
Huff this.
I thought they did a pretty good job too, also of displaying like the content that she's in when she's Robin Wright, the Avatar, right? It's like she's in a movie that's like literally Doctor Strangelove and the Slim Pickens, like descending on the bomb, thing.
Plus, she was in a robot whipping movie, which I'm all about. I'd
Metropolis, straight up, there's straight up just. There's like she's in like a remake of Children of Men at one point. It's very strange.
In the future society, the Robin Wright that they sampled becomes the star of some kind of action vehicle that's almost like XXX if it was a little more sci-fi.
R-U-R.
R-U-R, robot fighter or whatever.
Yeah, it's a reference to robot.
And all the robots hate her because she portrays robot violence incorrectly.
Yeah, it's Rebel Robot Robin. That is her character.
Robot Rebel Robin, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. It does a lot of cool, like, honestly, when I look at this kind of, like, let's tap into gathering little artifacts of pop culture, like, if it had the budget and the Spielberg of Ready Player One, I think that this could be a lot more engaging for popular audiences. But because it's kind of on the niche and it's kind of on the auxiliary of like pop culture, it can only make light references. It's like, oh, we're referencing Tom Cruise, the person, not like Top Gun. But also he's wearing like Top Gun glasses. So like think of Top Gun. But because they can't get over all that copyright as well, like it never lands. I think the main focus of what this movie is trying to say about like how we're sliding away from individuality and into this kind of collective identity, and that can be a dystopia or a prison of its own, it kind of gets lost sometimes, because if this was a bigger, more like I wish that Ready Player One had a lot of this stuff, and I wish this was a lot more like a more special.
I wish that Ready Player One wasn't what it was and was instead this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I wish you had structure.
You gotta hand it to Ari Folman, who's coming from the world of being a documentarian. Like, yes, it's uneven, but it's a pretty goddamn ambitious story to tell when you're coming from documentary to now do this. And to do something that is basically Ready Player One, playing with the same themes of like anything can be anything. It's an imagination world, but on an €8 million budget. That's so low for what this is trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I admire his chutzpah for just like taking this on.
Absolutely. And I think it was I thought this was a good choice, just because I think there's like, just in this conversation, I found it fascinating. Like there's a lot of things at play. Though the movie, if you're looking for like, should I watch this movie or not? Well, if you can track it down, I definitely suggest it. I also just think that it does separate, because it's not like a traditional storytelling narrative. It does separate from the enjoyment of the film to someone whose, diet is usually reserved for, like what comes out in theaters here.
Unless you're just down with cartoons, because again, once the animation kicks in, it's also just kind of delightful to look at.
Visually cool.
Yeah.
I legally have to recommend it because I think it technically had Grace Jones in it.
That's great. That's so great.
Well, thank you to Tommy B.
Yeah, Thomas B.
Thank you to Robbie B.
Robbie
B. Drive time, Robbie B. Getting you through that rush hour traffic. Where can people find you and Sean Baby making boing boing noises, Robert?
You can find us making so many boing boing noises with various things, with the soundboard that we've just gotten. That's what I'm plugging. I'm plugging our soundboard full of gong noises. I promise you, gong noises, air horn, slide whistles at the Dog Zone 9000, or text-based slide whistles at 1-900hotdog.com, where we have me, Sean Baby, Lydia, Brandon, Tom, Alex Schmidt. We got everybody. We got all your favorite people, and we're not giving them back, so you gotta come over and see us.
I did one. I'm technically in there. Yeah.
You did our most perverted guest. You also did our most perverted podcast. Swaim, are you a pervert?
Yeah,
Ooh.
he is.
Oh.
I
That
gotta
makes so
go,
much sense.
guys.
The pervert exits.
This has been a Small Beans endeavor. We're a bunch of pals who make podcasts, sketches, music, web series, and movies. The Beans always have new ideas percolating, so make sure to check us out at patreon.com/smallbeans. That's patreon.com/smallbeans, where you can browse all of our current and past content, see what we've got planned in the future, and learn how your support can help the small beans grow into huge, giant monster beans. If you enjoyed this content module, please like, rate, subscribe, or tell a friend about us. We love you!